Folks, we're back. This is Steve Sanson, Jim Jonas with another episode of Veterans in Politics. Today we have Nohra. He's a candidate for Nevada's gubernatorial race. And last time I checked, there are 25 candidates running for governor. 25. I think the most in several decades. But it's going to be a good year. We're going to see who's going to come out victorious. Jim, you have anything?
Nope.
You don't have anything?
No. Because if I did say what was on my mind, it might get me in trouble.
Okay, well, anyway, so I got something. So I went up to Palmdale and I finally met two of my biological brothers and one biological sister.
Nice.
So there are 14 of us, 11 are counted for, and I met 3. Very, very overwhelming when I was to see their families and for the first time. And I'm 54 years old now. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it was an eye opener for me.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh. Eye opener. Plus, I enjoyed my grandkids, so that worked out for me.
They are cute grandkids.
Yeah, and my son, daughter, and son-in-law up in Irvine, so that was fun as well.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I like all 3 of them.
But you know what? I do want to say something. I want to give a shout out to Dr. Robert Madoff, who's been calling up candidates like crazy to make sure that they receive the invitation to our endorsement interview process. And folks, candidates out there, I just want to let you know, we had a candidate that didn't want to come to the endorsement interview because we didn't endorse him 8 years ago. 8 years ago. And he held this grudge. And he's running for, guess what? Judge. Now, the character of this person to hold a grudge for 8 years because our organization didn't endorse him is beyond me, especially somebody's running for judge. And he's mad at me, and I don't even endorse. I cannot endorse in this state. I could endorse outside of this state, but I cannot endorse in the state of Nevada. The president of Veterans in Politics International is the only person in the organization that cannot endorse in the state of Nevada. You got that? I can't endorse. So what are you getting mad at me for?
Yeah, okay, so I'll add on to that.
I'm not done.
No, well, you didn't endorse, Veterans in Politics didn't endorse me either.
There you go. When you were running.
And
now look at us.
Yeah, right?
Right.
I obviously didn't hold a grudge.
And another candidate running for governor, he's not coming because he said that when he ran for something else several years ago, we didn't endorse him and he's a veteran. So check this out. We don't rubber stamp veterans. Get it? We do not rubber stamp veterans because if we did, then we should tell the non-veterans, stay home. Just like the unions do. They endorse only the incumbents, but yet they tell everybody to show up and they're not going to get endorsed. A lot of these unions, if you're not the incumbent, you won't get endorsed. Veterans in Politics is not like that. We don't rubber stamp anybody. So I don't know how you people getting all these things in your head, but I'm glad that we're hashing it out now. And there was another gubernatorial candidate. Sorry, Guy. There was another gubernatorial. I'm on a roll right now. There was another gubernatorial candidate who says, hey, since you invited all the B candidates, all the clowns is what he calls them, all the clowns that are running for governor, I'm not going to allow my candidate to show up. But guess what? You're going to need those clowns. If your candidate does make it out of the primary, you're going to need those clowns and their friends to help you win the general, you stupid. You shouldn't call anybody a clown. I am glad that people are entering the race, and I'm glad that people are taking a sharp look at what's going on with our country and decide to put their name on the ballot. And I'm proud of those people for doing that. Veterans in Politics make sure that everybody that's running for a race no matter if you have name ID, no matter if you're rich or poor, no matter if you have political clout or you don't, we invite everybody that's supposed to be running for that particular seat. Like governor, we invite all 25 candidates to show up. And here's another thing. If you're not at our endorsement interview process, no matter how glorious you think you are, we will not endorse you. Because if you can't give us your time and show up to our endorsement process, why the hell should we endorse you? Make sense? I'm sure it does. Okay. Got that all out the way?
Yeah.
Oh, we good?
Yeah.
Nohra, sir, how are you today?
Good, how are you?
Good. Tell us a little bit about you.
So, my name is Nohra. It's spelled G-U-Y, like Guy.
It took me a while to catch on.
Like I always say on the stump, you have to ask my parents why they did that. But
Right.
I was born in Lebanon in 1960.
Now, one of my best friends, George Shahadi.
Yeah, that's
Lebanon's
Lebanese name.
born.
That's Lebanese name, definitely.
Yeah.
And so in 1975, there was a civil war in Lebanon. And I got involved in the civil war at 15.
Oh, wow.
So
You took up arms at 15?
yeah, absolutely.
Oh, wow.
And I actually, but not just random. I actually went to commando training in the mountains for a couple of sessions, maybe 7 sessions.
This was against Syria, right?
This was against the PLO. PLO and the Muslims in Lebanon.
Okay.
The reason why I mentioned that specifically is because I do have a bond with veterans, even though I didn't have the privilege of serving the United States.
Right.
Once you've been in these situations, I think everybody knows what it feels like, and I've always had a very strong bond with veterans, just period. I came to the U.S. My parents decided, 15-year-olds shouldn't be out on the, in a checkpoint, shooting other people. So they brought me to the United States.
Your parents did?
My parents did. They kind of forced me off. They literally, like my commanding officer came and got me from my position, took me home, and then they took me to the airport.
What is the age to recruit soldiers?
I was the 18. I mean, just like here. I mean, every once in a while there's a random 16-year-old here and there. I just couldn't sit and watch my people get threatened and not do something about it.
Gotcha.
I sometimes make the same analogy with today, where I just couldn't sit and watch my country that I love so much being pulled the way it is. And this is the second time I feel that I'm the urge to serve. My parents, so they got me to the United States. We ended up in Alameda, California. Went to high school there.
Okay.
I wanted to belong badly once I got in, because I realized what an amazing place America was, and how
And still is,
of course, and how people accepted me. Because I was mixed and they were mixed and everybody was mixed. So here I was. So I played football in high school, and
Position?
I was a running back and a defensive back.
Okay.
I had a couple of pretty good games. Then I was in a rock band. I played in a band
was in a
as
rock
well.
band.
In order to belong, it was a big deal to belong.
Yeah, I saw that picture on the 5 mailers I've gotten from you now.
Five mailers.
That means you're on a privileged list if you got 5.
I'm pretty sure Jennifer makes sure I get those.
Yeah,
but,
exactly.
and for the record, I didn't get any mailers from you. I'm up in Centennial Hills, just to let you know. You guys forget about the Northwest?
No, we don't. We have everybody. Now that you're going to be in our database, you're in. Let's see. I went to college, and
What was your major?
my major was actually in history. Then I went and got an MBA.
Okay.
And then I started my own firm. I worked for 7 years, and then after that I started my own firm in venture capital, where we invested in life science companies defined as biotechnology and medical technology. Brand new stuff.
Did they find a cure for cancer?
A couple of our companies did, yes.
They found the cure for cancer.
Not all, but this was a specific cancer in the blood area. So
Blood cancer.
yes, if you look at, if you research CAR T technology, say CART, that's the name of the technology,
Okay.
you'll find one or two companies, it was acquired, so they're not there anymore. But that's technology that we invested in back then when people said nobody could cure cancer. And so far, we have disease-free people at 6 years.
That's a blanket statement, isn't it?
Yeah.
Saying nobody could cure cancer. We could put a probe on Mars, but we can't cure cancer on planet Earth, right?
Well, I think they have to redefine it. Like, nobody has come up with the cure for all
Cancer.
types of cancers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Back then they thought we were all going to die from cancer. So that was kind of, and when you're a venture capitalist, you always go against the grain,
Right.
Yeah.
which is basically what we were doing.
Yeah.
So I did that for several years, 35 years.
Okay.
And actually was still doing it until I threw my hat in the ring on the gubernatorial election. Why is this important? Because the business I was in is pretty much on the leading edge of technology,
Okay.
of management, of budgets, of doing more with less, which is really, really important. Because we can't just throw money at these problems; they're not going to be solved this way. You've got to actually, entrepreneurs have to be very, very careful. Okay. So that's where I learned everything I need that I think to be the best governor. Because it's a CEO job. It's an executive position. Yeah, there's politics, but it's an executive position. It's about
Politics and policy.
policy and management. 17 departments report to the governor.
What are they? What department?
I'll just give you an example. Department of Transportation, BLM.
Black Lives Matters report to them? You know,
That's a running joke. Yeah.
When I first heard BLM, we had a guest on here who was talking about BLM. I'm like, what does the Bureau of Land Management has anything to do with that? And I was serious because I didn't know.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, that's Black Lives Matters.
No.
I'm like, so you guys stole the acronym? Because remember the WWF is World Wrestling Federation, but World Wildlife Federation had the name before and sued WWF.
Yeah.
That's why they changed it to WWE.
Okay.
So the Bureau of Land Management should do the same thing, I think.
I should. They definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, so several departments report to the governor,
Okay.
and it's very, very important that you have an executive who knows how to manage people and how to get the best out of them. And it's not, there's the perception of the hard ass business guy who fires everybody. Not necessarily. You make people responsible for their jobs.
Right.
If they do a good job, you keep them.
Right.
If they don't, you don't. And I think that rule should apply to me when I'm governor. If I don't do a good job, I think the people should let me go.
So, Mr. Nohra, tell us, what is the function of a Nevada governor?
You're the chief executive of the state, so everything works through you. So the most important thing probably is that the budgets come to you.
Okay. And you know the state's budget?
I do.
What is it?
They're usually biannual.
Okay.
I don't know why they do them every year, by the way, but I'm playing by the rules.
You're a numbers guy, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's about 13 billion, so 6.5 a year.
The majority of that money comes from where?
The majority of that money comes from the government and taxes. I mean, the federal government gives us some, and then we have taxes as well. Okay. In the states, it's sales taxes. We don't have income. We don't have an income tax, as you all know, and we're going to keep it that way. No. And I'm going to veto anything that looks like any increase in taxes. Just so
all these California people coming here, they might try to change it.
We're going to tell them that if they want the same stuff, they can go back. We're different. We're different here. If you want to come here and be like us, or you're running away from there because you don't like what's going on over there, God bless you.
Don't bring it here.
But don't bring the stuff over here because you saw what it did to you. I'll show it to you on TV. So, that's basically how we feel.
So why, in God's name, do you want to be governor of this great state?
It's a great question. I have two reasons. One is I've been fortunate to live the American dream, and I want to make everybody in the state, give them that opportunity.
I would like to hear from you what you believe in your heart, what the American dream is.
The American dream is, I'll give you a little bit of an analogy. The American dream is a 15-year-old boy who's fighting a civil war in the middle of nowhere that no one has ever heard of, who now is sitting, interviewing with you, talking to you about wanting to be the governor of a state of the greatest country on earth.
Well said. Well said. I like that analogy.
Thank you. Yes, and I mean it. I wouldn't say it. It's everything you hear from me is right from here.
Okay. Do you know what problems our state faces currently?
I sure
And
do.
how you plan, just name the problems that you believe that our the state faces, and how you plan to resolve them as governor.
Okay, so we have several, and I try very hard not to rank them, because the second you rank, you lose perspective when you're a manager.
Sure.
You know, you've got to make sure everything is done the same way. So to me, believe it or not, the first one is that we're not a well-run state. Governance. It's not a well-run state. We need to be well-run for the people.
And what makes you say it's not well run?
You know, just every time anybody has any contact with any gubernatorial organization, a state organization, they struggle. I'll give you the best example, which you will all agree, and all your listeners will agree, DMV. Why is it so dang hard to work with the friggin' DMV, right? I know other states in this country where people actually, they don't even talk about the DMV. They're like, oh yeah, we went there, it took 20 minutes, we were done. So just to give you an example. So it's just that it's permitting for occupational businesses. It's permitting for the contractors. My feeling is that, you know, small business, we need to encourage small business to grow and thrive in our state.
How do you plan to do that?
First, to get rid of all the regulations. So every time.
What regulations is keeping small business down?
If you're believe it or not, if you run a massage place and you're just every 2 years you have to get your license again, they charge you a boatload of money to be on the association, and they have like 35 of these. 35 associations for every small business that exists. And I'm going to make a joke, but you know, the Donut Shop Association. Really? You need a freaking association to have a donut shop? It's a donut shop. You make donuts, you sell them. You know?
Simple enough.
Right? But no, there'll be regulation. You know, the dough that you use.
Sounds
and
like
the
Common
OSHA.
Core.
Things like that. So what you're going to hear from me always is common sense.
Okay.
You know, common sense, because that's what the folks want. They want somebody who talks to them in common sense terms, explains to them things in common sense. I'll do the complex stuff behind the scenes and the budgets and stuff. It's my job. That's what you elected me for. But when it comes to me talking to you, my people, it's common sense. It's just that simple. That's going to be always a test that we use.
Well, first off, with the mailers that I've received, and then obviously a friend of mine is involved in your campaign. I honestly had never heard of you before, but you know, just listening to you talk, you know, I'm very impressed with the things you have to say. But at the end of the day, like, if people haven't heard of you, I mean, what are you guys doing to get your message out there a little more? Because when I talk to average people about governor, there's only 2 or 3 names that come up, and it's always Lombardo or Joey Gilbert, or you know, every once in a while I'll hear John Lee thrown in the mix, but I never hear your name come up. I do bring your name up though.
Thank you.
But you know, I mean, so how do you overcome that juggernaut that is Lombardo?
So without divulging our strategy, but you know, no, it's okay. So here's the deal.
And don't mention your opponents by name. That's my job.
Okay. You can do that. And I usually don't anyway, because it's not my style to.
No, you can pick on Sisolak all day, but that's fine.
I'll do that if you allow me. We know the numbers. Okay, and you know, I'm realistic. I'm not you know, this living in this echo chamber that I believe my own stuff. So we're going to have in a high turnout election, we're going to have probably 180,000 people vote. That's the number. Okay. Now,
talking about in the primary or in general?
The primary. The problem is mostly the name recognition primary. By the time we get to general, people will know who we are.
Yeah.
So now it becomes a matter of, you know, and the reason the 25 that you mentioned, I would say there are probably 6 that are competitive, for lack of a better word. Yeah. So my math is 180 into 6 plus or minus some people's name recognition,
right? Some
people's lack of name recognition of me. And then you do the analytics that are needed to be done. We are working with the same firms that I've actually worked with a very successful candidate in Virginia recently, as far as where are the voters and how do we reach them. That's what you're probably getting because of the campaign staffer. But in general, we will. There is a system, AI system that tells us who we're looking for, and all we need is X plus one. That's the term they use in politics. If it was 2 voters, if it was 100,000 voters, it'd be 50,000 plus one. In this case, it's 180,000 with 6 people running. So it's going to be something plus one. We're going to know what the something plus one is, and we're going to go get it. And I'm going to be the hardest working candidate. Just so you guys know, the last week we covered 2,000 miles in our state. We did 48 meetings, and we went to every single county. And that's just the first time. We're going to do this at least 3 to 4 times. So if I'm back here, I'm lucky enough to be back here sometimes in the end of May, I think the question will be a little different. And we also started a advertising, we bought advertising on the radio, on TV today. That was our first day, and it's going to go until the end of the election.
Hey, so are you going to be at the Clark County Lincoln Day dinner? Because I know you've been doing the other ones.
Probably. I don't know my schedule. I just show up. I look at my calendar first day in the morning, and I show up. Okay. So I'm pretty sure we'll be there.
Okay. Well, so then I just got one more question. Then just general stuff that I've been asked about. So the main people, from what I understand, and this didn't come from my friend, but this is what I've heard, is that the main people that are running your campaign is a campaign firm out of Virginia, and you brought up Virginia. One of the things that kind of confuses me, and I'm sure they're very smart people, but how do people in Virginia know what the people in Nevada want?
So one thing about me is I'm always going to hire the best people.
He's going to say that some of these people here are not trustworthy, will stab you in the back, so he had to go outside.
I just asked the question. Let him answer the question. I'm not saying you're wrong by doing that by any means. I'm just
that would be my answer.
But you're not running, Steve. So let the candidate answer the question.
It's okay, guys. I love this back and forth, so I'm happy with it. Okay, so
we're best friends, so we love teasing each other.
And friendship is very, one of the most important. Friendship and family and God, of course. When I do a job, any job, right. I hired in my life maybe like 30 CEOs. My firm invested in 180 companies, entrepreneurs. You get very, very important for you to know, right? And I'm sorry if this is going to take a long time to make this analogy, but I want to answer your question.
Sure.
When I hire a CEO for a cardiology company, I'm going to hire the best athlete, not somebody who comes from the cardiology space. I'm going to hire the best athlete who could be in a urology company or an ophthalmology company. The best athlete can be taught cardiology, right? A bad cardiology person ain't going to do a good job as my cardiology CEO. So when I look at the talent here, and on our side especially, folks, the Republicans haven't won here in I've been here 8 years. We haven't won in one cycle that I've been here in anything that matters to me.
Really good answer.
Yeah. Okay, so you get the best people, and that's what you do. And your friend is here for the same exact reason. Amazing individual, heart, hunger. That's what I do. Great athlete to that expression. Great athlete.
Yep.
So,
does the governor's office have an investigation part of their office, or do they have to go outside of that?
As far as in what sense?
The governor's office.
We don't have a very transparent government in general in the state.
Who are you telling?
And this particular governor is not very, this whole emergency power business, that's not good. So the answer is we should, but we don't.
The reason why I bring this up is because Veterans in Politics have been working on family court for several years now. Okay. It took a lot of backlash from it because nobody wants to touch that for some reason. And there's a lot of corrupt judges in family court, okay? And last session, Dr. Robin Titus sponsored a bill because she agreed with what we were saying about remove and retain judges. Okay. And the reason why that bill came into effect is because judges, you cannot recall them. They're the only elected body that's not recalled. Okay. There are no term limits for judges. They're protected by judicial immunity. Okay. And if attorneys don't want to run against a judge, especially an incumbent, because they're scared of backlash, because they got their caseload before the judge. Right. Judge have friends on the bench and they have other cases. And that's how they turn on the lights and feed their family, by winning their cases before judges. So they don't like to, push that apple cart, okay? So how do we get rid of a bad judge? How do we do it? So here's our plan, right? So if a judge that's the incumbent goes to the general election and we have remove or retain under that judge's name, if remove gets more votes than retain, the seat's vacated. The Judicial Selection Committee takes in applications, sends 3 names to the governor, and the governor picks one of the 3 names. That person serves out until the next until the next election cycle. Then that person that the governor picks runs for retention, because that's the only way we could get rid of a bad judge. Okay. And the reason why I'm bringing this up to you, because this bill has to go through committee, okay, which Brittany Miller killed it last session. Thank you, Brittany. Very smart of you. Killed in last session. It didn't make it out of committee. Okay. And therefore, it never made it to the floor, and it never made it to the Senate, and it never made it to the governor's desk for approval. If you saw a bill like that, are you willing to approve it, or are you willing to veto it?
I am going to be always for transparency, and I'm always going to be against corruption. Okay. Having said this, I'm also going to listen to both sides of every issue, listen very carefully. I'm going to have people that I trust on both sides. Okay. Tell me what they think. And at the end of the day, I'll make the call. Okay. From what you're telling me right now, just the little that you told me so far, I would sign that bill. Sure. Because I think we need our system, folks, for a system to work, people have to trust elections, they have to trust their judges, they have to trust their elected officials. We have to trust. If you don't trust, if these 3 things don't happen, our system breaks. And once our system breaks, I've seen what happens. Right. It's called civil war, and we don't want that.
So while I'm talking about that, committees, in a committee in Carson City, the chairperson of the committee could kill a bill. Just like that. Yep. Because maybe I don't like your name and you're sponsoring it, sure, or whatever the case might be, or maybe somebody that's against the bill is giving me more money for my campaign. Sure. And so I'm going to automatically put that bill in the drawer and kill it. Do you think that it should be left up to the committee to vote on a bill for it to be heard? Or do you think that one person should make that call?
So if that question came to me and I was the governor, the first thing I would do is check the Nevada Constitution. What does the Constitution say about that?
Man, I like you. You're the first one to talk about the Nevada Constitution.
Yes, you know what? God gave us, God gave us the Bible. We have the Constitution. There are ways. So that's what I would check. I would check that, and I would see if the chair has that prerogative. Now, I could tell you that in my world, venture capital, the chair, if you're a chair of a company, you actually determine the agenda. You can't hide items because, that doesn't work. But you can put them in order so that by the time everybody wants to go home and cash their airplanes, the issue that you don't want to be discussed comes up. Yeah. That's different. We have a constitution in the state, and I don't know if that allows the chair of a committee in the legislative chamber to do any of this. I would go with the Constitution first, and then I would go always with what's best for our people.
Well, since we're talking about the Constitution, it's going to come up with more questions I'm going to have for you. But how many bills does the governor carry to get into law? Do you know how many? How many bills could the governor carry to get into law?
I think it depends how many they sound. You know, it depends how the system works.
I'm saying as governor, as governor,
yeah.
could you push a bill into the assembly and the Senate?
You play your defense, right? You can vote no, mm-hmm. or you can veto, mm-hmm. or you can say I'm not voting unless.
But you can't have a bill go into.
No, you don't go down. It's not top down. It's bottom up.
Okay. You talked about the Constitution.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Are you familiar with the family court bench? Are you familiar with that?
Just unfortunately, I had a divorce, and I had family court, but it wasn't in the state. Right. So,
do you know that there's no jury box in family court?
Yes, because that's how mine was. It's usually just the judge.
There's no. Do you think that one person, a judge, mm-hmm. should determine if they should take away your kid, terminate your parental rights, or relocate your kid to another state or another country? Do you think that should be left up to one person to decide that's going to affect generation on generation on generation on generation? Do you think one person should deem that?
So one more time, I will defer to our Constitution, mm-hmm. and what the Constitution says.
Well, the Constitution calls for, Amendment 14 calls for a fair judiciary, which that's not fair. Yeah. The Seventh Amendment calls for a jury, which there's none.
In family court.
In family court, which there's none. I don't think the Constitution applies to family court judges.
So then I would be, as the governor, open to a conversation on reform with these issues. I know what you're saying, because I know exactly where you're coming from, and I think reform could be helpful, because I do think that in general there's a bias in family courts.
You think that there's a bias? I know there's a bias.
I'm learning how to be diplomatic in my terminology.
Political side coming out of you a little bit.
I'm not a politician, but I.
But you are now. Put your name on that ballot.
But I'm diplomatic. I have diplomacy in my grandparents' side. So I think we should be open for reform, because I know what you're saying, and I've seen it happen, and it drags and it takes forever, and there's always a bias, and our children are the most important thing in the world, and we're letting, our society is getting so disjointed that a stranger on a bench gets to make a decision on, like I just say, 20 year of life and the rest of their lives. So I could tell you one thing. I will listen to everyone that wants to make a case, and I will look at what's possible, and at some point I will weigh in based on my values and my guidance from above.
Well, the Nevada Revised Statutes calls for 6 months from start to finish on divorce and custody cases. And some of these divorce and custody cases have been going on for 13, 15, 16, 17 years. I had a litigant. The child was 6 months old when the visitation custody case started, and now that child is 15 years old, still battling. As governor, what could you do about that? Although the Nevada Revised Statute says 6 months, but nobody's paying attention to that.
Well, see, the nice thing about being the governor is that you do have the bully pulpit, and I think with this story you just told me, I would challenge everyone. I would say, you explain to me why it's taken 15 years for something that by statute has to be 6 months. I need to hear this answer right now, right here. I'm the bully pulpit.
So now, you be a hands-on governor? Is that what you're saying?
You have to be. You have to be. It's not, if you're a senator or an assemblyman or whatever, you don't have to be hands-on. That's fine. You have a little staff and they tell you what to say and what to do. If you want to be a good governor, you've got to be hands-on every single day. There are no days off. That's why you take on that job. And then you take on all the issues and you discuss them.
So you know that when they brought in recreational marijuana, the whole argument was if you approve this, it was going to help teachers' salaries and the money was go to education. But nobody's talking about an investigation trying to find out where this money went and why did legislators or whoever put this thing together lie to the Nevadas and saying that it's supposed to go for education when it's not.
Now you're hitting a hot button for me, which is education first and foremost, but transparency, right? They keep telling us, if you give me this and you give me this, it's going to go right to education. And then it never happens. Over and over. And by the way, we never get better at education. We keep taking more money, but we never keep getting better. So let me, outsider, come in and say, folks, we've tried this for 30 years. It's not working. So let's just stop it. Now with the marijuana situation, yes, week one, I'm going to be like, where does this money go? How is it being funneled into schools? And what happens to it when it gets there?
So let me ask you a question on that then. Because you're right on the point, and I'm really, that's why typically I ask more questions, but been very impressed on some of the stuff you were saying because you never, obviously you understand the role of the executive branch, okay? You realize you're not a legislator, but you do realize you have the bully pulpit, and that's something that I think governors have been missing for a long time. So when we start talking about, and Steve framed it perfectly when he said, where did the marijuana money go? Well, where it went was into the general fund. Now, you, as a governor, you can't fix the general fund. Okay, that's a legislative issue. It's an accounting thing that the legislature has to take care of. But you can use the bully pulpit and say, okay, so $185 million came in to the state this year. You said that $185 million was going to go to education, but actually only $72 million went to education because the 184 went into the general fund.
Yes.
So dealing with the general fund, you can use your bully pulpit and say, hey, this is supposed to go to education. How come it's not going to education? Where did that difference go? Yes. What agencies did that go to? Would you be willing to do something like that?
First of all, I bet you, I never say anything bad about anybody else, I bet you I'm the only gubernatorial candidate that understood what you just said. Okay? I know exactly what you're saying. Yeah. And I understand the question. And to answer your question, absolutely. Yeah. You know what? I'm going to say, again, I know numbers. I've done budgets my whole life. Right. Okay, so 185, we're going to use your numbers, 185. Why did 72 end up where it's supposed to? What happened to the other 72? What do you mean you don't know? You're fired. Can somebody tell me what happened to the 72? Okay, I'm going to work with the controller. Tell me what happened to the 72. We're having issues. We'll get an audit firm. Let's get PwC in here. Let's get them in here. Tell us what happened to the 72. I'm going to get under that. And the one thing that, please, I want you to understand, I will always communicate with the people. I will always tell you what happened at the end and why. I will say, this is what happened to the... Look, it could be an absolutely okay reason why it happened. Oh, there was a COVID emergency. We had to buy PPEs. Okay, folks, in the year 2019, the reason why the 72 million didn't go to education is because we had to buy PPEs.
But
okay.
At least it was accounted for, and at least the transparency, at least the people know where that money went.
And I'm telling them where it went.
Exactly.
Because I'm their agent. I work for them. And that's how we're going to do all of these situations.
The buck's supposed to stop with you.
Absolutely. That's, you take, I always tell my COs, you get paid the big bucks. I'll go, you don't as a governor, but you get paid the big bucks because the buck stops at you. That's why, and that's why you take the fall. Right. If things go bad, and if things go good, that's why you get the big bucks. And I think that's how you do it. But the key to everything that you've been asking me is that I want you to walk away with, I will research it with the best of my knowledge and my ability, and luckily I've done this my whole life.
Yeah.
And B, if there's something I don't know or don't understand, I will ask people to understand it, and I will always, I hope, have the right judgment and then explain to people why I'm doing what I'm doing. The people meaning my people, meaning you, meaning my constituents. That's who matters to me, my constituents. And that's going to matter to every employee in the government when I'm governor, their constituents. It's going to be, I joke, and people kind of roll their eyes sometimes. We're going to be the Nordstrom of customer service in government. People love Nordstrom. I don't know if you have wives, girlfriends, whatever. People love customer service at Nordstrom. Well, guess what? That's what we're going to be. And
why'd you pick Nordstrom?
They're supposed to be the best at customer. I don't shop. I'm a normal dude, right? This is as good as I can dress. But I'm told by people that the best customer service for stores is Nordstrom's. According to, they do studies every year and so on and so forth. So that's just an example.
Okay. So my next question for you then is, now, it pains me to say this, but I'm going to cut our current governor a little bit of slack, just a little. On, I think the COVID pandemic kind of was a weird, a lot of people were just trying to figure out what was going on and stuff. But I think he took it too far. But so as far as emergency orders, what's your take on emergency orders, and when would you be willing to execute an emergency order?
It's a great question.
Because that's something that I think not only, it's more relevant than ever on the national level, but I'm very pro 10th Amendment guy, states' rights. Mm-hmm. So I want to know, what's your take on what would get you to the point where you were willing to execute an emergency?
First, I think you brought up a very good example here. Now, we're talking to veterans. They understand leadership. Leadership is not taking power. Leadership is power that's given to you by the people who trust you. So when people will say to me, there's an emergency, we need you to take care of it, I will. But because of the Constitution, I'm told it's 30 days. After 30 days, I will go back and I'll say, how are we doing? Are we done with this emergency? Because I shouldn't keep it unless you want me to. I will be checking with the people as per the Constitution. In this case, the legislature, as per the Constitution. So people give you power. You don't take power. Right now, our governor has not given it back, the emergency powers. I don't know what the heck he's doing with it, to be honest with you. I don't see an emergency. We're sitting here I'm drinking a little bit of water.
His emergency is he wants to retain his seat.
That's not, well then go to Albania and take it over, This is the United States of America. This is Nevada.
I guess that brings up a good point, and thanks, Steve, for bringing that up too, is because what's your threshold? Because, and the reason why I'm doing this is I'm kind of vetting you on this because I've heard that before, not so much on the state level, but one of the things that frustrates me on the national level is executive orders, and specifically when it comes to committing troops. Okay, well, technically, according to the Constitution, the way it's originally written, okay, is that the commander-in-chief can send troops anywhere he wants into combat, but that only lasts for 30 days. Mm-hmm. And then after 30 days, then he has to go to Congress to get approval, but then they got kind of slick with the War Powers Act and all that stuff.
Unless he's sending Marines, and he can send Marines anywhere in the world for 90 days without the act of Congress. That's why Marines are called the president's own.
Yep.
That's an interesting fact.
Yeah. Yeah, I knew he was going to bring that up. But yeah, no, so I mean, basically, the 30-day thing is fine, but typically what ends up happening is then you'll get another state agency that'll come in and say, oh no, you have to keep this, because if you don't, the whole state's going to collapse. And these are people that have been in a state-run agency forever, sure. Right? And then they go, well, if the state collapses, then you're not going to get reelected governor. Like, how would you handle that situation?
My campaign...
That's a tough question.
No. My campaign hates
hindsight's 20.
My campaign hates that answer. I'm not getting in here to get reelected.
Yeah.
I'm getting here to do a job. Right. If I do the job in 4 years, there's so much stuff I can do. I've been blessed with good health.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is not about re-election. There will never be a decision. First of all, I don't owe anybody anything. Right now, right here, I'm just sitting on your table. Right. I don't owe anybody anything. Yeah. Re-election doesn't matter to me.
Yeah.
What matters to me is running the state in the best possible way for our people on day one.
This is not a popularity contest.
No, it's not.
You're absolutely right.
I've seen it with all governors where let's face it, Sisolak ran as a moderate, but then he gets in because the unions got her in. He becomes this Mr. Left-wing, AOC guy. Well, come on.
AOC.
Come on.
So that leads me to just one more follow. I don't mean to beat up. I'm just like, I'm super impressed by you.
Folks, I love your people. I love who you're representing, and I want to answer all the questions.
And you're one of the people that actually understands the questions I'm asking. So now I'm getting all excited because I'm like, wait a minute, somebody actually gets this stuff. Next question. California, whether we like it or not, yields a lot of power with the state of Nevada. It shouldn't, but it does. So how would you handle that? Because it just seems like whatever Newsom does in California, then all of a sudden we do in Nevada. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So how? Because there is a relationship there at some point. How do you deal with that? How do you keep Nevada and not make us another California? Because I'm seeing this over increasingly. Not that I hate the state of California, the people. Now, I do hate the state of California, but not the residents. I hate the government of California. I'll make that very clear.
I think that Nevada, and that's why this election is important, and that's why I want to win. I think we're at a stage where we're going to go one way or the other. This is an inflection point for us. Yeah. Okay? We're going to be mini California if we continue the craziness that we have now, which is one-party government, or we're going to start taking back, when I'm governor, things that have been lost. Because the problem is, we're not California. We're not as rich as they are. We don't have the tax structures that they have, which are awful. Yeah. We have so much more than them. We're not them. Or the population, right? We're manageable, and we're very special. So why would you ever take such a special place that we are? And folks, I've just been everywhere, so I know how special we are. Yeah. I was in Hawthorne, the biggest ammunition, I didn't know that. Well, I guess I learned that now, right? I was in Beatty. I saw ghosts, okay. And
saw ghosts.
Yeah. So
you've been to Winnemucca?
Of course. We had dinner there 2 nights ago.
Yeah, I was going to say, I saw your thing on Facebook that you were on your way to Winnemucca. Yeah, I saw that.
So my point is, this is such a special place. Why would you ever want to turn it into the place next door that most Nevadans don't want to be? That's the thing too, right? Most Nevadans don't want to be, including in Vegas. I think there's this perception. There's this thing that, California's cool. No, Nevada's cool. We're different. We have so many pieces and so many, and by the way, every time I go places, I'm learning. So I ask the farmers, what's important to you? I ask the ranchers, what's important to you? I want to know what's important to everybody. I ask them.
You don't act like a know-it-all, huh?
Oh, God, no. No. I'm here to learn. It's all about learning. I will make the right decision at the right time. I'm not scared of making decisions, and I'm not scared of making tough decisions. But you shouldn't just kind of, the wind's blowing in this direction, let's just do this.
Well, if you're not learning, then you're not building an information base in order to make educated decisions.
Absolutely, and that's the thing. You have, what's wrong with finding out the issues. You guys should know. So Democrats, Republicans, that whole thing, correct? Well, okay. So people assume that if union, as you were saying before, the unions are going to be to the left. Okay, but you know that the rank and file, they believe in God, they pay their taxes, they want their families to have a good education. Okay, so that's who I'm running for. The other stuff that maybe the leadership wants to focus on, that's unimportant to me. What's important to me is these people and what they want. And I'm doing the same exact thing with all of our communities. I'm doing a huge Hispanic outreach. I speak Spanish, so I'm lucky. That helps me a little bit. I'm doing the same thing. You guys will love this story. So I went to the Shepherd Breakfast. You guys know the Shepherd Breakfast?
I've heard of it.
Okay, so it's black churches, but it's business. It's people come in business. So every 4 years, all the politicians come in and they do their speeches. I came in, did my speech, talked to the bishop, and I said, I'm interested in what's going on. And he but we're very polite. I'm sure he rolled his eyes. Well, guess what? The next Shepherd Breakfast, I showed up again. I said, Bishop, I'm not speaking today because I spoke the last time, but I meant it when I said I want to hear what's going on in the community. I want to hear what is going on with the community. I want to help when my turn comes. And he was shocked. And I'm having a meeting with them. Heck yes. Of course, I want to know what's happening because someday a bill is going to come on my desk and I'm going to remember the conversation I had with the pastors and they're going to say, that's how we want to do this and that's how we do this thing. And I'm going to ask the question at that point, Bishop told me this. Why are you guys doing the opposite? And so again, it's this openness to our constituents. I know it sounds like a broken record, but it's not about me. It's about, let's think 4 years from now, if things are run better. You know how many people have not gotten their unemployment checks still after COVID? Well, that's unacceptable. The person would have been fired within weeks. So if 4 years from now we're that much better, that's what really matters. And the second thing I'm going to do, because this is a trick you learn in the venture capital world, is that you make a decision that future governors are stuck with. Yeah. I'm going to make a commitment to the people that we're going to be 29th in education in 4 years. How do I know that? I don't know. But I'm going to bet that number, and you find me a governor, Democrat or Republican, who's going to get elected if he goes, no, Nohra was wrong. It shouldn't be 29. We should stay 50. Or we should stay at 40. It's over. The genie's out of the bottle. 29. Stuff like this. That's just one example. I'm going to have probably a dozen of these, because that's how we're going to change things here. We're going to professionalize how the state is run. Make people proud to be state workers. There are many of them, by the way. I don't judge at all. There are people who love their jobs and want to do a good job for the people. And guess what? The governor is going to give them their favorite donut when they do a great job in front of everybody.
You said donut?
Donut. I'm going to walk into Susie's office and say, Susie, you just did a 20-minute DMV consultation, and the person is so ecstatic. Here's a donut, your favorite donut, because I know Susie likes
You're gonna let
glazed.
Susie go to Jenny Craig and
That's after.
run on a treadmill for 2 hours just trying to get rid of that calories off that donut.
We'll talk about longevity and stuff like this after, because that's
Speaking
my
of
other
longevity.
Yes, sir.
What's your take on the death penalty?
It's in the Bible, and in the United States, we have a great appeal system. So it's a long way of saying I'm for it. Okay, I'm for it. And you know something? There's all this trafficking that's going on right now. If somebody sent a bill to my desk about traffickers of little girls, God help us, because I'll probably sign it. And then,
have you ever been to a prison system?
Prison system?
Yeah.
I haven't, but one of my staffers have, and we talk about it all the time.
Okay. Do you talk about how correction officers are bringing in contraband to prison leaders?
I've heard a lot of that. Yes.
And that's happening, and nobody's done a damn thing about it.
You know, Lord of the Flies, you know that book, that, systems anytime you create a system, ecosystems get created. And ecosystems, by definition, with humans, unless there's a moral authority, get corrupt. I don't think wardens have enough power, moral authority-wise. I think there should be more chaplains in prisons, not less, from the top down, because we need moral authority. But yeah, these things go sideways, and again, as a governor, if you can expose things like this as in the bully pulpit, then you do.
As governor, what would you do about that?
If indeed there is corruption going on.
Oh, there's no if.
Oh, if?
There is absolute. Well, you know why? I know this because I got firsthand. I know a lot of people.
Okay.
And I know a lot of people that come in and out the prison system.
So I was looking at the budget the other day. There's a Bureau of Prisoner Affairs or something. The head of Prisoner Affairs is going to come to me. I'm going to ask him into my office. I'm going to say, what is this I hear about this stuff going on in your system? Tell me, is that true?
I'm sure he's going to lie to you or her.
I can catch lies. I'm a venture capitalist. I know, like, within 3 minutes, if you're, I'm going to say, I don't believe you. Do you want me to audit you? I will. I need to know what's going on. I need to understand what's going on. We need to fix the system. It's not fair what's happening. And then, of course, then you have hearings. I mean, the thing with everything that you're telling me today is that if I believe there's an unfairness and injustice happening, I will bring it up and then let it play its course. I'm not scared, because what's the worst that's going to happen? You don't get reelected. Gee, So issues like this that are important, that come up, it's your responsibility as the leader to talk about them. You don't close your eyes. If you're, let's say we're in a combat position, right? And we're defending a hill, and the guys on the right side are asleep, and everybody else is fighting. Well, you know what? They're going to cost us if they're asleep. So they better be up like the rest of us. That's what I got from having been in the bunker. That's why veterans are so important to me, because I've been in the bunker. I know what it is like to have somebody next to you in the bunker, and I know who I don't want in the bunker. And in this case, they're not being in this correction business. That's not being in the bunker.
Okay. So I'm glad you brought up veterans, because I think this is going to be my final question. As governor, what are you going to do to enhance the lives of veterans living in this state?
God, I don't want to sound flippant. Everything I can. Okay, everything I can. I know PTSD. I know what's going on with that. I will make resources available on PTSD. I will try to get exemptions for our veterans.
They're losing their kids in family court as well.
I got that's what you were saying, by the way.
So are law enforcement officers too.
Which usually are also the same.
Nobody's vindicated from it.
I did a ride along with a police officer who was also a veteran, because it's very common. But to answer your question, this is how I end up always with veterans. Do you guys know who Kyle Lamb is? Have you heard of Kyle Lamb? No. Do you know the movie Black Hawk Down?
Yes.
Okay. He was the guy that was in the show. He was a special troop and a ranger, and he was the consultant for the movie. So it's a long way of saying how much I care about veterans. So I met him. And he's from Tennessee. He's this gruff guy with a big white beard and all this kind of stuff. I go, man, you're so much better looking than the guys in the movie. Now, you guys remember that was Matt Affleck and all these guys. I go, you're so much better looking. He was looking at me. And then we started talking about things. And unfortunately, when I was in my war, I did fight against Somalis, because they were mercenaries for the other side. And I didn't know what the language was. And I said, what language is this, to one of the guys on my side? They go, that's Somali. So I remember I told him.
Swahili?
Somali, from Somalia.
I know, but don't they speak Swahili?
No, it's kind of a weirdish dialect, yeah. Mm-hmm. So I told Kyle Lamb the story, and he goes, we're brothers. I said, I'm brothers with all veterans. So my answer to you is, anything that's going to come to me about veterans, I'm going to err on the side of what's best for them. No questions asked.
If you fix family court, that would help a whole lot of veterans.
Well, now that you've told me this, that's on my mind. Absolutely, that's going to be an important thing. Okay. there's so much I could discuss about just veterans and their struggles. And look, I had PTSD. I mean, I was there. You know, I know what it feels like to have the guy next door die and not you. Why? Why am I still here? I mean, just, you guys, you don't want to go, I mean, we can spend, I mean, anyway, been there. And again, like I say, I feel so bad I couldn't serve this country, but I served my people and I protected them, and the time has come again. I didn't want to run for anything. The time has come again to stand up for our people now.
Is there anything that you want to say that we haven't covered yet?
I think that your viewers are very intelligent. They're paying attention. They're gonna know what a Republican that can win is. And it's somebody who's competent, who has common sense, who has good experience, and who has the right judgment, because that's what they're going to be voting for. They'll know that, and hopefully they'll act on it.
Jim, do you have anything for Mr. Guy Nohra?
No, actually, you've answered all my questions. And I really appreciate your answers specifically about the general fund. Because that's one thing I keep bringing up, because it is, and family court obviously is something that Steve and I are very passionate about. Steve's the one that really put it on the forefront. But the general fund is like become my new passion, because I think it's just a slush fund. And so I really like the fact that you were able to answer that and understand how that works.
See, what you learn this in finance is that whenever, and this is just investment advice for you guys, whenever something is overly complicated, it doesn't work. So this whole slush fund business, that's why it's smokes and mirrors. It doesn't have to be that complicated. Yeah. They do it just to confuse you so they don't know what the heck's going on. Same thing with derivatives and investments like these, where they you buy a derivative to secure the security. The more complicated it gets, the more of a scam it is. That's what they do in government. No one pays attention, no one knows. Yeah. But I will. And I'm going to be up and on them the whole time.
All right. Well, Mr. Nohra, we really appreciate you coming on the program.
Thank you. Glad I met you.
And let us know your platform. If you could look into the camera, Mark's going to zoom in on you, and you tell the folks why they should get you out of the primary, and your point of contact.
Okay. So you're looking for a chief executive officer of your state. You want somebody who's had business experience over and over for many, many years, someone who understands the challenges that come in very, very situations that are complicated, and where there are lots of different factors that come in, which I've done my whole life. That's really the biggest thing. You're hiring a chief executive officer for your state, and I'm the best qualified person. I'm a Republican who can win in the general. I think I am the biggest nightmare for Democrats right now. I really, really believe that. And last but not least, the website is nohra4nv.com, Nohra, fornv.com. I'm looking for, you heard that name recognition is an issue. Any volunteers that are ready to go out and pound the pavement on our behalf, we would love to have that. Thank you very much.
Mr. Nohra, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you.
Jim, thank you for coming on.
Yeah.
Folks, that's Guy Nohra, candidate for Nevada's gubernatorial race. Make sure you educate yourself before you go to the voting booth, and you're going to see a lot of the gubernatorial candidates, along with the U.S. Senate candidates and the lieutenant governor candidates and Secretary of State and Attorney General candidate at Ahern on April 2nd, which is this Saturday. Hope to see everybody there so you can have a first-hand look at all the candidates. And remember, we invite every single candidate to show up. There is not a candidate for any race that we have not invited. And if they choose to come, great. If they don't, it's on them. But we did invite them no matter what their political affiliation is. Just want you to know that. This is Steve Sanson, Jim Jones for Veterans in Politics. Until next time.